For more on the humanitarian consequences of the latest fighting, we're going to cross to Jean-Nicolas Armstrong Dangelser, who's head of the Doctors Without Borders mission in Sudan. Thank you very much for joining us today, Jean-Nicolas. This crisis in Sudan has consistently been described as the world's worst humanitarian crisis. Do you think that that's an appropriate assessment? And if so, what makes the situation there so much worse than in other war-torn areas?
Yes, and thank you for having me. The largest humanitarian crisis because, first of all, of the scale of the crisis. I mean, we had more than 11 million people that were displaced by the fighting, whether inside Sudan or in neighboring countries as well. We have also really spreading malnutrition, enormous areas that are really hard to reach because of the fighting, but also because of administrative impediments put by the different parties at war. So it's extremely complicated also to access the populations that are really in dire need of help. And this is what is making it really the worst crisis that we have seen recently.
So, given these latest developments from North Darfur, do you think that the Darfur region is kind of again becoming the worst affected part of Sudan in a much larger humanitarian crisis?
I mean, for sure, Khartoum was still holding millions of people, even though millions had left after the beginning of the fighting, and was one of the hotspots of the fighting for nearly 2 years. We also have to remember that the fighting is not completely over in Khartoum state, even though the Sudan Armed Forces took over Khartoum city. There is still fighting ongoing in the south and the west of Omdurman, the twin city of Khartoum, still displacing people, still a lot of wounded, a lot of people killed. And as you mentioned, the fighting is now also intensifying towards the west. It was already a hotspot, especially El Fasher and North Darfur, since May last year when it became under siege, and which we saw a really sharp deterioration of the humanitarian situation since a lot of the supply routes were cut off from El Fasher, from Zamzam. And unfortunately, we saw it continue to escalate as end of February. We had to take our teams out of Zamzam as Doctors Without Borders because the violence was too intense. Our teams could not cope with it. We had ambulances under attacks also before we had to withdraw, and ultimately our staff couldn't get out of the camp anymore, and we had to pull out.
So, is any aid, reaching these camps now?
It's extremely complicated. I mean, in the attack that you're mentioning yesterday, unfortunately, colleagues from Relief International, 9 of them have been killed during the attack among the civilians, and it's really a terrible event that we see coming into a series of attacks since the beginning of that war on healthcare workers, on humanitarian workers, on healthcare facilities. And this is non-stop since the beginning of the war, whether it's drone attacks, shelling, gunfire into the facilities. We experienced the same in other areas. So at the moment, it's nearly impossible to have anything coming into the camp, whether it's food, whether it's water or medicines.
What work, Jean-Nicolas, is Doctors Without Borders able to carry out in Sudan right now? And if you are able to carry out work there, what are the main priorities?
We are present in 11 states of the 18 states of Sudan. So we are pretty spread from the west to the east of the country. We tend to forget sometimes also that there is a really dire situation in the Kordofans region, as well as Darfur and Central Sudan. We are supporting hospitals, primary healthcare clinics as well, and we are working in the community. We also have to do some work that is out of our usual scope because of the scale of the response, but also because of the lack of humanitarian response, because of the lack of funding that is getting much worse since the US funding cuts and the European cuts that followed. So we also have to do food distribution, water distribution, etc. Things that we usually don't do, as we are much more focused usually on medical activities.
Jean-Nicolas Armstrong Dangelser, that's unfortunately all we have time for. Thank you very much for joining us on the show today.